Hello everyone and welcome to another Marvel Crisis Protocol Battle Report. Today we have a big Game 20 threat of the Guardians of the Galaxy featuring Angela versus 20 threat of Asgardians featuring Enchantress. So two new characters, one on each side, big teams, big threat level. We'll take a look at the teams first, then the missions, and get underway. So here are the Asgardian team being led by Thor. Then we have Loki, we have Hela, and we have Valkyrie, and then finally we have Enchantress, who does not count as an Asgardian currently in terms of affiliation. The affiliation card needs to be updated. Atomic Mass Games is refusing to do it until the rest of the world gets the Angela and Enchantress release next year. But obviously she is going to be an Asgardian. But it doesn't matter because there's still 4 versus 1. So it's still an Asgardian affiliation team. She still has the Asgardian rule, so she's getting 2 power in the power phase as well, but she's just not contributing currently until they update the card officially, but everybody knows she's gonna. And the tactics cards being used: Odin's Blessing, Rainbow Bridge, Grievous Wounds, Sibling Rivalry, and No Matter the Cost. And the 6-man Guardians of the Galaxy team being led by Star-Lord has Drax, has Rocket Raccoon, has Ronan the Accuser, Groot at the back there, and of course the mighty Angela, Thor's sister. Perhaps she's freeing the Asgardians from Enchantress's beguiling, I don't know. She's very, very scary, very powerful on paper. Very interested to see how she's going to do. And the tactics cards being taken are Lovable Misfits, Unearthly Rage, We Are Groot, Deadly Duel, and Crew of the Milano. And with a little bit of glare from the studio light, apologies for that. Here are the 2 missions being played. The one with the threat level picked, Extraction, is Alien Ship Crashes Downtown, so that's the rubble piles that are notorious on this channel for always being discovered in one roll, definitely nothing else. 2 victory points to the team that's holding them, and if you have the core, you can only do 1 move action per turn, and you also suffer 1 damage if you don't do an attack in your activation, which usually doesn't matter because it doesn't get found until the end of the game. Anyway, the secure is just Riot Sparks over Extremists 3.0, so there's 4 Extremist consoles. Be controlling them, get a victory point. You can also spend a power to interact with them to heal 1 damage on a character within 2. It's interesting that it doesn't specify ally. I guess the only thing that would be relevant to is maybe healing Hulk so he doesn't get an extra attack. Either way, we're going to use this as I knock the building. This side is deployment, that side is deployment, rather than the usual sides. So we've already got the Extremist consoles set up over there as well. And then the rubble piles, they're supposed to be on top of each other, in the middle, and supposed to be kind of on top of each other. So we'll find out who's deploying at which side and come back at deployment. So both teams are set up and ready to go. It will be the Asgardians going first in battle round 1. We have Loki and Thor next to each other. I'm sure not to do any certain turn 1 play that always happens. Valkyrie, Enchantress, and over there by her lonesome Hela. Then we have Ronan, Angela, keep blanking on her name, Rocket, Groot, and then down here we have Drax and Star-Lord ready to go all over the line as much as they can go, so just a little bit of their bases are touching range 3. So let's go into turn 1. So we're sticking down this spooky end of the table because Thor activated first and of course played Sibling Rivalry, so he and Loki spend 1 and he chucks Loki medium. Loki doesn't get collision damage if he collides with anybody, but it doesn't matter, it's just to make him clear some distance, so Loki still gets an activation medium distance in, so that he can help protect that. Thor then, for his actual activation, double moved, spent his power to search for the rubble, or search the rubble for the power core rather, and of course did not find it. Drax activated and just medium moved twice to get over to the same rubble pile as Thor. He also expended 1 power to look for the power core and could not find it. Hela activated and moved up medium twice. She spent 1 power to search the rubble pile there for the Kree power core and actually found it. Now also realised was using the wrong objective markers for the rubble pile. Those are supposed to be them because if you flip it over, oh look, it's the Kree power core. So she's found it, she's got it on her person, she's there. It's great that she found it early, but typically she's kind of isolated over that end of the table, so that's a problem because a lot of the Guardians are on this end of the table. But that is now on Hela's card, and she's also controlling that Extremist console. So sticking over this end of the table, Ronan moved up medium and then used his universal weapon, which is range 4, on Hela to try and do some energy damage. However, she fully blocked it, so also did not do the shock. So he's just stuck there, he's not even holding an objective, but He's got to go after Hela. Safe activation next for the Asgardians. Valkyrie activated and just made sure she was securing this Extremist console at the back there, and just easily within one, but kind of moving up towards the centre as well, just in case she's needed. So Thor's sister Angela activated, and she moves long despite how powerful she is. She is ridiculous, honestly. Just her stats are fantastic. So she moved long twice to get her right smack dab in Hela's face. She's also contesting the Extremist console, obviously. She used 2 activations to get there, so what she did instead was spend 2 power on Odin's Daughter's Might, where you get to pick a scenery element within 2, I think, or 3, and chuck it. She picked up the dumpster and threw it at Hela, and it did 1 damage, all said and done. Not much, but got her right in the face, ready for a scrap. Enchantress activated, moved up medium once, and then did a Spurned Affection, which is her basic attack. It's a beam 3, 5 energy attack on Angela, and it failed to damage her. Angela's got 4 defense against everything, I think, because again her stats are ridiculous. It generates her 1 power regardless of whether it does damage or not though, so Enchantress got 1 more power from that, so she's sitting on 3 now. And that's it. Simple activation for Groot next. He left Rocket to his own devices, probably pretty safe at the back. Double short move to where you can see him, to join the hunt for the core that Hela is holding on her person. So Loki was the last activation for the Asgardians, and he moved so that he's contesting the Extremist console here. Then just did his basic strike, which is not his usual MO really. Usually does not Trickster, the Ice Blast or Illusions if he has the power. Might be the first time I've ever seen him do is just basic strike. Anyway, he did really well. Drax took 3 damage, which generated 3 power to each of them, but also it did get Loki the ire of Drax, so that's the vengeance token on him now. And it's over to Rocket and Star-Lord to end Battle Round 1. So it was just movement for the last 2 activations. Rocket just adjusted himself slightly, and obviously is within 1 of that Extremist console. Star-Lord double medium moved so that he's also contesting this Extremist console. He then spent 1 power to use it to heal 1 damage on Drax. So then Battle Round 1, it is 1 victory point for each Extremist console being held, and 2 for the Kree Power Core being held. Now 2 of the Extremist consoles, this one and this one, are contested, so no victory points to either side. So the Guardians get 1 for that, the Asgardians get 1 for that, and of course the Power Core is safely with Hela currently. So that is 3 playing 1 as we go into Battle Round 2 with the Asgardians going first again. So Hela was the first activation for Battle Round 2, and she had to do at least 1 attack so that the Kree Power Core doesn't hurt her. So she did a basic strike on Angela, did really well with it, a couple of crits in there. All said and done, she did 3 damage, which is pretty good. Then Rainbow Bridge was played as a tactics card. Any number of Asgard characters may spend 3 to play this card. Hela and Valkyrie played 3 each. Characters that spent power are placed within 3 of their current location. So Valkyrie ended up there, Hela ended up like roughly there, and then used her other action for a movement action, which is the 1 movement action you're allowed if you're holding the Power Core, to get her over there, so she's securing that back one. Now that does mean that this core has been, this Extremist console has been abandoned, but she was right to leave, and this is a really handy card for getting away with objectives. So Angela was the first up for the Guardians of the Galaxy, and this was a busy turn involving a lot of stuff, so let's try and go through it step by step. First things first, she moved long to cover the distance to Hela, and then did a Heaven's Wrath attack, which adds, like, it's only a 4 dice attack for 3 power, but it adds on dice based on the size of the target, so it's better against larger people. Only added on 2 for Hela. That said, it did 2 damage. Then, Lovable Misfits was played. So this is where the complications come in. Guardians of the Galaxy affiliate, any number of allied Guardians of the Galaxy may spend 1 to play this card. All of them spent 1 power to play this card. So then you roll a die for each of them, and depending on the result it does different things. So I've left the dice next to them to show what was rolled. Angela got a shield, Drax and Star-Lord got wilds, Rocket got a skull, Ronan got a skull, and Groot got an exclamation mark. So depending on what they did, you get to choose. If they roll a crit or a wild, they can immediately either make a 0 cost attack or gain 2 power. Groot gained 2 power. Drax and Star-Lord both attacked Loki. Star-Lord did 3, Drax did 5 thanks to the Vengeance token which has been used up, so Loki is dazed. Then also, if you roll a a normal attack, which none of them did. You can attack people who are holding objectives within 3, they suffer 1 damage, but no one rolled that. If you get a blank or a shield, which Angela did, you can advance small, so that's why she's now contesting that objective there, because she advanced small thanks to the shield. And if you roll a skull, them and anyone within 2 get the stun. Oh, that means Groot is stunned as well, unfortunately. Incidentally, I never remember the difference between the stun and stagger pictures, so just using these, but they are stunned. It just means if they would generate more than 1 power, they only generate 1 power. But yeah, Groot's going to have that as well for being within 2 of Ronan to show that they're fighting. But it's a gamble of a card, but that's a fun one. Valkyrie activated, moved forwards to where you can see her there, did a basic attack on Rocket, which did 2 damage. She then generated enough power for herself to use Asgardian Might to pick up the poor Rocket Raccoon and chuck him at that lamppost for the 1 automatic collision damage, which is enough to daze him. Now, she could not get close enough to contest this or, control it, so no one is controlling that currently. Groot walked himself back onto the point as a result, but he had to use both actions to double move 1 short move. It was not enough to get within 1. He is now controlling that though. Enchantress activated and moved Medium to get back to the console over there to help Hela out. She then did her 7 mystic attack called Enthrall, which does different stats effects based on the number of wilds in the roll. There was 2, so it did stun on Angela and did do 1 more damage, so she's at 4 out of 6 on her healthy side, so looking a little rough, but she's definitely making sure that you can't ignore her. So, after that, it's over to either Star-Lord or Drax, or Ronan. Drax activated, he spent 1 power to interact with the Extremis console to heal himself for 1, then he did a basic strike on Thor for 1 damage, then he did a headbutt, which did 2, and also shoved him back small, so Thor has been pushed back here, and that's it. So it's over to Thor for the final Asgardian activation of Battle Round 2, but Ronan and Star-Lord still get to do something after that. So as you can probably tell, the Thunder God has responded in kind. He spent power on a 4 Asgard, so he does a move and a strike as 1 action. He did it to Drax for 2 damage, and then it also got a wild, so he could chuck him, threw him at the car, 1 damage. Then he did another basic strike on Star-Lord, did 3, got a wild, chucked him for 1, and wait. This is a lot to go through. He threw Drax at the car, Drax took 1 damage, that covers that. The 3 damage is from Star-Lord being thrown into Drax, because Drax whiffed his dodge roll, which has dazed him, so 4 Asgard also makes it do stagger, but that's now irrelevant because Drax is dazed. Star-Lord took damage from the basic strike, and where did he get the other damage from? Oh, you know what, that's all the same damage, I just didn't put it in a pile like I usually do. It was 5 damage, and then he got chucked into Drax for the 1 default, which is enough to daze him as well. So Thor got a double daze. Sorry, that was a lot of damage and I didn't lay out properly. But that was a double daze for Thor, so that means Star-Lord obviously isn't getting a turn, so it is over to Drax to end Battle Round 2. So all Ronan did was move once to secure that Extremis console, and then also shook his stun status effect as well, just to get rid of it. And that does take us to the end of the round. So at the end of Battle Round 2, the Guardians are starting to trail very badly. This Extremis console is held by the Asgardians for 1. This one is being held by the Guardians for 1, because Groot got in there and Valkyrie is not. The Guardians are holding that one for 1, so there is that. Over here, Enchantress and Hela are holding this Extremis console for 1. Hela still has the power core for 2. So all said and done, we go into Battle Round 3. The Asgardians on 7, the Guardians of the Galaxy trailing on 3, and it is the Asgardians, because of their reduced numbers, going first again. So Hela was the first up for this battle round with one singular purpose in mind: daze Angela so she doesn't get a turn. And she succeeded. She only needed to do 1 Reign of Hell. She did it. 4 damage. The stun is also gone because of the daze. Angela is not getting a turn, and she's also not contesting that point, so the Kree power core is pretty safe for now. So stopping Angela having a activation this turn almost came at a cost. The Rocket Raccoon activated and he did his Hadron Enforcer on Valkyrie, and she took 5 damage from it, and she has 6 health on her healthy side, so she lived. And Valkyrie, when sitting on a lot of power, as previously mentioned many times, is an exceptionally scary thing, but at least he's got Groot there to protect him. For his other action, he moved to help secure this console, just in case she somehow manages to survive. So Valkyrie activated, and I'm going to eat my words here based on the performance. She did a Warrior of Legend Dragonfang. That's a total power cost of 5 to get. For every crit and wild, she can turn a miss into a hit. It's what Warrior of Legend does, and it's a 7 physical. If you get a wild, you can do a free strike as well. So she did that on Groot, because Groot was going to be the target either way. 1 damage. That is from the Dragonfang with Warrior of Legend activated. 1 single basic hit. It was a wild though, so it became, actually because of the wild, it should have been an extra hit for Warrior of Legend, right? Unless it's not crits and wilds, maybe it's just crits. We'll double check that. Either way, Groot's surviving, so let's just cover the rest of the turn now. Did get the wild, so it was a basic strike. The basic strike did 2 damage, which gave her enough power to do another Warrior of Legend Dragonfang, and it did 1 single hit. Again, I know that it sounds implausible on 7 physical dice. It did 1 single hit in 2 sets of 7 rolls, which Groot blocked successfully the second time, and there was no wild to do a follow-up strike. So Groot took 3 or 4 damage. We'll correct that in a second, depending on whether or not that wild should have generated an extra hit. But that's it, and she didn't move to secure either. Very, very disappointing. Drax the Destroyer activated next. He moved up to where you can see him now. He did a basic strike on Thor. He had the Vengeance token. It was used to put in 3 extra dice, and all said and done, it did 5 damage, which is enough to stun Thor. Now, totally forgot that when Loki is on his wounded side, over there, although he moved there afterwards, he doesn't let you roll additional dice on crits, which was totally forgotten about. Thor only needed 3 damage to go down, not 5. So it hopefully doesn't matter, but that was forgotten, and I'm pretty sure at least 1 crit got rolled in that big roll he did. Also though, totally forgot Drax has a rule like all the Black Order do, where if you take damage you reduce it by 1 to a minimum of 1, so really he shouldn't have flipped when he did. Again, too late to go back, that was a mistake. Either way, he then spent 3 up to 4 because of Loki's presence to pick Loki up and chuck him, and that's how he ended his turn. So we're staying down here. Loki moved back into contesting range for the objective. He did a Frost Blast, so it would hit Drax and Star-Lord. Whiffed Star-Lord entirely. Drax, it did 1 damage, and it did do 1 damage. It wasn't 2 down to 1. It's just 1 down to a minimum of 1. And the slow condition, which also earned him Drax's ire in the form of the Vengeance token. Groot activated and first of all healed himself for 3, and then did 2 basic strikes on Valkyrie because the first one whiffed. Second one did 3 damage, it only needed to do 1. Valkyrie is dazed, and that does mean he didn't have an action left over to clear his status effect, but that's okay. So next would be Enchantress, but she wants to stay where she is. Ronan wants to stay where he is, so it's just down to what Star-Lord wants to do to take us to the end of the battle round 3. So Star-Lord moved around so that he's contesting the Extremist console. He then went full auto with his element guns on Loki. It did 3 damage to him and was elected to also bleed him, and that does take us to the end of battle round 3. So the Guardians of the Galaxy are pulling things back a little bit as we get ready to go into battle round 4 with the Asgardians going first. So obviously the Asgardians still have the power core for 2, they hold that one for 3, but the Guardians of the Galaxy have that for 1, that for 2, and that for 3. Meaning as we go into battle round 4, it is 10 playing 6. So battle round 4 got started with Enchantress attempting 2 beguiling calls, or whatever they called, her basic attack on Angela. Both whiffed spectacularly for 0 damage. She then spent 3 on Siren's Call, which moved, well, she can pick a character within a certain distance and move them small, so she moved Angela back there, so an action has to be used to clear some distance to get back after Hela. But a pretty ineffective turn from Enchantress there, unfortunately. Bit of an odd angle, but Angela activated and did her Blades of Ichor on Hela, which as long as you roll a hit, don't even need to do damage, as long as you roll a hit you can advance small towards your target, so whoop, she was right back to where she needed to be, did 3 damage, then she did her Sword of the Stars attack, which is her basic 6 damage strike, and it did 4, so Hela is dazed. She dropped the power core, which Angela has also spent 1 to pick up. I forgot to mention during Enchantress's turn she did interact with the console to heal Hela for 1, but that's irrelevant now because she's still dazed. She does have her 3 soul tokens from the various people who have been getting unconscious, but that only matters if she's taken out on her wounded side. Valkyrie decided discretion was the better part of valor, moved medium, then initiated a charge, which is another move medium followed by a basic attack on Angela, and whiffed, did nothing. But it did get her away from Groot and Rocket at the very least. She could not get close enough to help contest that point over there though. Drax activated, and first of all he did a basic strike plus the vengeance bonus on Loki. Did 2 damage, and that was enough to take Loki out, so Loki is gone. He then headbutted Thor. It only did 1 damage, but still managed to push him because he's size 3 or under, so he got pushed back small to where you can see him right there. So Thor was the last to activate for the Asgardians. He moved in and then did God of Thunder. It did 4 damage to Star-Lord, it needed 5 to take him out. Only did 2 to Drax, so he's still pretty okay. Actually, again, just forgot, it's 2 down to 1, so Drax took 1. Remembered eventually. So Rocket and Groot want to kind of stay there. Again, Ronan just wants to stay there holding the point. They're going to get a lot of victory points this turn. So it just comes down to Star-Lord trying to shift Thor, really. Even though they don't need to because they're claiming it. Might as well try and do damage to him, they'll take him out. 7 power spent later. This is how Star-Lord's turn looked. 6 power on 2 full auto element guns, 1 to heal himself for 1 off the console. First one to Thor did 1 damage, 2 wilds though, so bleed and stun, shock, sorry. Should have done this the opposite way around obviously, but second one did 4 damage and also did stun. So that is 4-5, he has 1 on him for 6, so Thor has 2 HP left as we are at the end of Battle Round 4. So rather amazingly, the Asgardians scored nothing in that battle round. They lost the core and they control none of the points. Conversely, the Guardians of the Galaxy have the Kree power core for 2. They hold this point because it's 2 versus 1. They hold this point uncontested, they hold that point uncontested, and this point is a draw. So no points for either of them. Meaning, as we go into Battle Round 5, Asgardians still going first, especially now they're a man down. The Guardians have pulled ahead to 11 playing 10. So this battle round started with Enchantress going first, and she spent 3 power on Amora's Kiss. She can use it on an enemy within 1 of her, and she steals an objective from them, which is pretty amazing. So she just lifted the Kree power core off of Angela, and then attacked her with 2 of her basic attacks. 1 whiffed and did no damage, the other was in totally the opposite result and did 5 damage. Angela has 2 health left, she's sitting on a lot of power, although 1 did get sapped. But the objective is now back with the Asgardians. So Angela activated, and first of all she spent the power to pick up and throw Hela at the building over there, so she took 1 damage. Then she did 2 of her basic attacks on Valkyrie. 1 missed, the other did 3 of her 5 health she has on her wounded side. So Angela is going down fighting. Thor was up next. He did another God of Thunder, and it was pathetic. It did literally nothing to Star-Lord. It did 2 down to 1 to Drax. And then, infuriated that Star-Lord wasn't killed, he did a basic strike, and I've saved the roll for the defense roll. He had 4 damage coming in. That was the initial defense roll from Star-Lord, which got those extra dice. He took no damage from that either, and then ending his turn while bleeding, Thor took 1 damage and he has 1 health left. So we're sticking over here. Drax had a simple enough turn, smack the Thunder God, 3 damage all said and done from a basic strike. Thor is down, so the affiliation bonus, not that it had been used, even though it should have been to remove one of them, totally forgot. Either way, Thor is gone, and things are looking very bad for the Asgardians now. We'll see if Angela can go down. Star-Lord is probably free to now go try and help, because Drax could just sit on that point, although no, he's 1 health away from death, why would he do that? It would be Drax, and he's slowed currently. So really it just comes down to taking out Angela, and then that's the end of the turn, because everyone's going to stand still. So we'll see if Hela and or Valkyrie can do that. So Hela activated, moved, did a Rain of Hell, and it did 2 damage, which is exactly enough to take out poor Angela, but she was an absolute beast. I love the way that she just, you can't ignore her. She's got to be dealt with, but she has been dealt with. There is still something else to do though. Valkyrie still needs to activate for the Asgardians, and Star-Lord, Ronan, Rocket and Groot, they all need to go for the Guardians. The only thing that matters though is Valkyrie could double move to contest this, which does mean that Ronan will get to smack her. She's 2 health away from death, but she could interact for 1 to heal 1. Ronan would definitely kill her. Ronan's sitting on power, he's just been quietly generating it by doing nothing. I don't know, I think what Valkyrie will do for her turn is just bloop, pay 1 to heal 1 and take us to the end of the turn. So this is actually a really close game, with the Enchantress stealing the power core from Angela before her getting taken down. So they have that, they have the point there that they're all surrounding, so 3 points in total. The Guardians also got 3 points, boom, 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 which means as we go into Battle Round 5, Asgardians go first again, and the Guardians of the Galaxy are ahead by 1 point. They're on 14, playing 13. Now, both sides have enough as it stands to get or surpass the victory points. So what it's going to come down to is how many resources can get sent to try and either contest or take out Ronan. Because, well, even then, that would be 2 victory points for the Guardians, which would take them to the cap. They would need to get over the cap to be classed as winning, and right now they are, because they've got the Power Core plus that, which would be 3. If they can contest and survive against Ronan, and no one else can get to them, Groot can't because he moves small. Star-Lord can fly, so as the Crow flies, I think he could possibly... No, I don't think he could get within 1. I don't usually do pre-measuring on camera, but let me just guesstimate. He's not getting within 1. He could definitely go over there and kill someone, though. So really, the only things that matter for the 5th battle round are over there. There is something to be done, though, so let's see what happens. So upon closer inspection of the circumstances, there's something that wasn't taken into consideration. The 3 ladies there, they all move medium. A double medium move from any of them is not enough to get within 1 of the objective. They can get within 1 to mess with Ronan, but they're not going to kill him. And Enchantress could technically move and then force Ronan to move away. The Guardians outnumber them by 4. No, not 4. 2, sorry, 2. So they could just burn turns and then have him go last after Enchantress to make him just wander back onto the point. So there's actually no point in playing out the turn because they can't do anything. They'll reach the score cap. They'll score 3. It's just that the Guardians score over the score cap by 1, technically giving them the win. But let's make this official. So if there was a way out of that for the Asgardians, by all means mention it in the comments, but because of the medium movement, I don't think it's possible. Well, you know what could have happened? Valkyrie could have moved once, and, well, no, even if she did a charge, you can't get within 1 with 2 medium moves, so it doesn't matter. So they do have the Power Core, they are holding that point very safely, that gives them 3, that does bring them to the 16 cap, so they would technically win, or you would technically count it as a draw. However, 1, 2, 3... puts the Guardians of the Galaxy at 17, 1 above the 16 win limit. So the way we usually run that here is the team that goes over, rather than counting it as a draw, wins. So this is going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy win. It was a very close match despite the Asgardian lead for quite a while. Enchantress didn't get to do any of her fun stuff. She gets to have 5 defense dice unless you're willing to pay 2 to get around her Mystic defense, which is wonderful. That didn't come into play. Her stealing the objective was cool. Angela is an absolute beast. I think some of her rolls were just unlucky. She could have done a lot more damage, rather, had the dice rolls been a bit more in her favour. Thor's 2 God of Thunders that basically did nothing to these 2 is embarrassing, and just the swingy dice. Sometimes that's the way it goes. The way it goes, rather. They should not have done collectively 3 damage, 4 damage across 2 of them. Ridiculous. That's just the way the dice swing sometimes. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you very much for doing so. In the coming week we'll see some of the releases for October, so look out for some unboxings of those. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Ta-ta for now.